Hello, my name is Patty, but you very likely probably know me by the username Storster. While producing videos has been a hobby of mine for as long as I can remember, even spanning back all the way through my early preteen years, it wasn't until 2020 that I actually made a name for myself in the space, and what would come out of that ultimately would change my life. Today, I want to take a step back and just briefly reflect a bit on my speedrunning career. Some of the games I touched, the discoveries I made, and all the friends I made along the way. You may click on this video and think, wait, are you completely done with speedrunning? And well, that's a great question. Don't really have the answer to that. I may be, but I also may not be. The title is meant to reflect that I am past what I would dub the peak of my speedrunning career. My interest in it in recent times hasn't been nearly as strong. I plan to stay a part of the community in one way or another for as long as I live, but participating in it is probably something I'm going to be doing less of as time goes on. So yeah, this video is going to be very low effort and rambly. Think of this as my final love letter to speedrunning. Let's start back at the very beginning. It all began in 2015. I entered the year only being 13, meaning that I was still wrapping up middle school, so I was basically a baby. Over the last few years at this point in time, I was going through a big Minecraft phase, and a bunch of now privated videos on old channels of mine reflect that heavily. Like any terminally online kid entering their teens in the 2010s, I was on YouTube a lot. My Minecraft interest at the time led to me watching a ton of creators in this specific space. The most notable name for me was SethBling. In 2014, I noticed a couple uploads of his that completely deviated from his normal content. Super Mario World speedruns. That immediately had caught my interest. I had already sunk my teeth pretty well into the Nintendo ecosystem. At this point, I already had a Wii, Wii U, and 3DS. The only Mario games I had fully beaten at the time was the original Super Mario Bros. On the 3DS Virtual Console, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii. But now my world became so much bigger, because I learned that not just people play these casually, but they also play them in a competitive setting to see how fast they can beat them. That sounded amazing to younger me. And because of that, before the year was over, I was already casually dabbling with Super Mario World and many of its ROM hacks that it has to offer. It wasn't until 2015 that things heated up though. Entering the new year, I decided to casually just buy a very cheap capture card, and I casually started speedrunning the one game that I had been putting a lot of hours into at the time, the original Mario Kart 8 on Wii U. Did I suck? Absolutely, but I didn't care about the times that I was putting up. I was just kind of having fun casually moving up the leaderboard and seeing my names next to other people. It was really fun. That wasn't what I stuck to forever though, because thanks to SethBling, I started following many other Super Mario World speedrunners at the time. I slowly became a frequent chatter, and after a certain point, I learned that they were hosting a tournament in the No Star World category. I was encouraged to join, since I had expressed some interest in the time at starting speedrunning it myself. So entering June, I fired up an emulator and I started practicing, but things felt a little fake to me. So you know what I did? I practically took all the savings I had at the time, and I bought a full Super Nintendo setup with Super Mario World. And I already had a CRT, so I was completely set and ready to go, just fully speedrunning this game on a console. On June 22nd, 2015, I completed what was my first documented speedrun of Super Mario World, and it was a 1.5 hour time in the No Star World category. And yeah, that's also pretty bad, but who cares? The ultimate joy of speedrunning is just having fun with it, just casually competing against yourself and just seeing how much better you can get. Honestly, some of my biggest joys in speedrunning, even to this day, is just when I first start running a game and I just get those first few back-to-back improvements. It's kind of addicting. This is where, for the sake of time, I'm going to start to speed things up a bit. Over the next few years, this silly speedrunning thing became my full-time hobby whenever I didn't want to focus on school or other personal things going on in my life. I was live streaming constantly, and besides still continuing to hone my Super Mario World skills, there were many other endeavors I went through. I casually explored some other titles that you may expect, like I did a casual run of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but I also just randomly out of nowhere picked up a couple of world records in Dora the Explorer GBA games. You never knew what games I would be tackling next at the time. And for me, the joy of speedrunning, just the art of it at the time, and honestly still to this day, is just trying to speedrun any new game I can. It doesn't matter how serious or silly it is. But anyways, throughout the rest of the 2010s, that would continue to just keep happening throughout my entire high school experience. I started running a bunch of Super Mario World ROM hacks. I casually ended up starting what would be the Eminem's kart racing speedrunning community. But getting further into 2019 is when something would happen that would make speedrunning start to be a really serious thing for me. With Games Done Quick being the de facto large speedrunning event, I made it my goal to attend one someday. That is something that I think I started thinking of, like, very immediately into speedrunning. I wanted to attend one of these big, mysterious events someday. It sounded really cool, and I even had a bigger stretch of a goal to maybe run on stage someday. Maybe I'd get good enough that I could do that. I decided that my first event was going to be Summer Games Done Quick 2019, which would serve as a great way to meet a ton of friends that I had started to make online over the years in these communities. That event in particular had a Super Mario World run that was being featured on stage, so because of that, it was a great excuse to see a lot of people in that direct community that I had started to just know. And because of that, I went. I don't really have many photos of this event from that time due to how shy and closeted in many ways I was. But let me tell you, I have zero regrets. This was one of the best decisions I could have made at the time. At the age of 17, I flew to Minnesota completely on my own, just to meet a bunch of online friends who all shared the same hobby that I happen to. In fact, if you go back and watch the footage for the Super Mario World run that event, you can actually see me crammed in the very back on the camera there, like in the back couch section. Believe it or not, that highlighted person there is me. I left that event promising one thing to myself: that this was only the beginning, and that I was going to do more of this. It had shown me that speedrunning had become a serious part of my life. It wasn't just some silly online hobby anymore. It supplied me with a ton of online friends, even one in person. And it was also a great constant escape during what was, to say lightly, was a very abusive upbringing. This was the first time that I realized that speedrunning may have saved my life, and it's continued to do so. Fast forward to 2020, and of course everything in the world is a mess. I don't need to get into any of that. All you need to know is that later that year, I started college, and on the side over the years, I had also been making YouTube videos as just another side hobby. While I did have a couple blips of success, it was mostly just low-effort joke content, but when the lockdown happened, it was time for me to get serious. With all the free time I had, I chose to brainstorm what would be the best thing to make, something that I was really passionate about. And then it clicked. I've been participating in the speedrunning community for so many years now. Why the hell am I not making videos on it? That sounded amazing to me. And I knew there were already some creators that had some pretty decent success in the scene, like Summoning Salt and Bismuth. And while I never thought I would be able to achieve success on their scale, I thought I could do a pretty good job myself. I was convinced that I could make a name for myself in this space, so that's exactly what I set out to do. In November, I released my first scripted speedrunning video, and it covered the newly achieved Super Mario Bros. World record at the time. And within its first couple weeks of uploading, it racked up thousands of views. I was absolutely amazed at this. I knew this was an amazing idea, but I didn't realize how quickly I could actually make this work. Over the following months, I took full advantage of this momentum. Admittedly, there were some videos that were just complete strikes, but when I did properly hit the ball, it was completely out of the park. When I was researching and uploading my first few videos, I was simultaneously working on a longer-term project, a world record history. I saw the format as a huge no-brainer hit, and if anyone could do justice for a Super Mario World one, it would be me. I already had a giant head start with my initial knowledge and resources. I knew where to get all my information immediately. So on December 29th, 2020, I released The Quest for Sub 1 Minute in Super Mario World, a full-on documentary documenting the very beginnings of the first completion of the game that was posted online in speedrun circles in the mid-2000s, and going all the way to the point that speedrunners had broken it so much that the game could now be beaten well under a minute. This was an immediate hit. In the first month, it hit 100,000 views. This made my channel eligible for monetization. I started earning money from this, and as a full-time college student, that was crazy. My dreams of having success with some kind of video creation seemed like it was starting to actually build up to be a real thing, and I wanted to do everything to try and maintain that. As I progressed through college, on top of a part-time job, I still found the time to consistently upload to the channel. In December of 2021, I would hit 10,000 subscribers, and then by May of the following year, I was able to double that. This was insane for just some kid trying to get through school. I had turned a hobby into a financial success, and it was something that I was actually passionate about as well. In many ways, I felt like I won the jackpot, and I just wanted to keep that feeling going for as long as possible. Unfortunately, due to many of the uploads I made in 2022, that continued to happen. In fact, there ended up eventually being multiple months in a row where I was making more money from YouTube than my part-time job, and because of that, I just took the leap to focus on the videos instead. That felt like a pretty reasonable decision to me at the time, considering, again, I was a full-time college student. I only had so much time to come up with the ideas and also make the videos. It felt like a no-brainer to me. I ended up making so many videos that year that I would be really proud of still to this day. I think one of the coolest ones for me is this Mario game was broken in 1 month. Due to this video being on a run that SethBling did, I reached out to him to see if he could help perfect my script, and he did. After uploading the video, he told me I did a great job, which was really awesome to hear from the person that was my initial inspiration for even getting into speedrunning about 7 years prior. 2023, though, is when things would get crazier. Both good and bad. The good? Well, I continued to build up my own community and build many new friends, and I was able to keep myself financially stable with that. Continuing to make connections, I thought it would be a great time for me to go back to another speedrunning event. 4 years after my first one, I decided to go to Summer Games Done Quick 2023, and showing some of these photos, oh god, there's actually something bigger here I need to talk about as well. My transition. I'll get back to that part though shortly. This event made 2019 look like nothing. I socialized with so many people, and I partook in so many events. I even got to be on a panel with fellow speedrun YouTubers to share the insights into video making. And god, again, these photos really show how early into my transition this was. Cause, believe it or not, this event was the very first time I presented the way I want to. I had never done that before. So yeah, I ended the week being really happy with everything I was able to do, and everyone I was able to meet. But going back home, I had to face the grim reality of my home life. I will not get into much detail here, but things over time continue to get worse at home, and transitioning did not help with that. Speedrunning was more an escape to me than it ever had been before. It was one of the only things that was keeping me going. A month after Games Done Quick, I was able to escape again for a little bit, going to a smaller speedrun event, but then things got worse. At the end of August, I was ultimately disowned by my family, and the final straw that caused that was my transition. And besides all of the real-life struggles and consequences that came from that, that also led to my online presence being tampered with a bit as well. In fact, you may have noticed that in the middle of 2023, my upload history became a lot more spread out, and that's because of the reasons that I just shared with you. It's kinda hard to keep making videos when your life just suddenly falls apart and you don't know what roof you're gonna be sleeping under by the end of the night. It's scary. Fortunately for me, I was able to find somewhere safer after a 5-hour drive west. I brought everything I could, and I tried to do my best at the time with what I had. Saying this was one of the toughest parts of my life is an understatement, but I made it work. Later that year, I was able to go back to another smaller speedrun event, and I ran Super Mario World there. That was a great escape for me at the time. It really kept me going both leading up to it and also after, just the rush and excitement you get just doing that. I also, fortunately, once I got everything together a bit, was able to regrow my YouTube career a bit. Speedrunning was still the main focus of this, but honestly, personally, I wasn't really doing much speedruns myself anymore. I was still interested in the topic though. I took advantage of Super Mario Wonder releasing, and because of that, I had a couple of the best performing months that I had ever had, which was huge after not long before that, being cut off from everyone blood related to me. Fast forward to mid-2024 though, and while my YouTube channel was doing absolutely great, the rest of my life really wasn't. The situation that I had ended up getting in more and more over time proved to not be the best, so I once again had to uproot my life. I had out of nowhere gotten a really generous offer to move all the way across the country, and I took it, including breaks and traffic. I drove over 18 hours over the course of 2 days, from upstate New York all the way to Minnesota. I don't want to do that kind of driving ever again. I'm really glad I did though, because as I got my bearings, things started to look up a little bit. But there was sadly one facet of my life that I felt like I was continuing to have less of a grasp of: my YouTube. Sure, after I had moved, I still uploaded some pretty successful videos, such as The Lion King and, a few more Super Mario World uploads, but I secretly wasn't really enjoying this anymore. I kinda reached the point where I continued to ask myself, do I really enjoy speedrunning in the way that I used to? Sure, I was still interested in the community, and I still casually did a run or two once in a while, but I kinda hated the fact that I made it my full-time job thanks to YouTube. Because of this, I experimented with a completely different style of video, documenting my completions of different Wii games, and just seeing how many I can beat along the way. As you can imagine, this didn't do quite as well, because it was such a huge pivot in content. But god, it's the only thing I wanted to do. I was sick of thinking of speedrunning related things. Sure, I had a couple speedrun ideas that I just randomly came up with, but I knew that if I did them, they would just not do that well and feel really soulless, because I just didn't have that passion anymore. So what the hell do I do? I was freaking out a bunch. This kind of felt like the beginning of the end of my YouTube success. What are you supposed to do when you can't get yourself to produce the only kind of videos that people will watch from you? Sure, I could just power through for the paycheck, but god, I couldn't fathom doing that with a hobby that I was so passionate about. I felt like if I did that, I would just be defacing something that I spent so much time nurturing and just caring for. So yeah, I decided to just keep going with the Wii stuff, and because of that, things continued to dip. My YouTube stats just completely went down. In recent times, things have kind of fell over for me. Not just in the speedrunning scene, but also my YouTube success. In fact, entering 2025 is what I would classify as the end of my proper speedrunning career. Awesome Games Done Quick 2025. Not only did I get to attend another event, but I got to scratch something that was at the very top of my bucket list. Do a run on stage. I got to run 96 Exit in Super Mario World, the exact run that I was sitting in the back of 5 years ago when it was last shown at the event. That was a very full circle moment for me, and I was very grateful to have two great friends in the community, Matthew and Truman, to do commentary for me. I was cheered on by the entire community, both in person and online. It was amazing comparing all the progress I had made in just the last few years. I continued growth with my YouTube channel. I made major progress and strides with my transition. I finally found friend groups that I actually felt safe and I actually wanted to be a part of, and I felt accepted in that. I felt like I made it. This is the top of the mountain. Just scripting this part of the video made me tear up a little bit because this was very much quite possibly one of the best weeks of my life, and it's something that I will never forget. I did not expect to cry at that again. Oh my god. This is one of those moments where I finally realized that I was truly loved and appreciated. I had finally found a space that I actually belonged in. That to me is where the final chapter of my speedrun career ended. I finished it off with a huge bang, and I couldn't have asked for it to be any better. It doesn't matter what comes after, because I feel like I set out to achieve everything I wanted to in this space. Before I wrap things up, I want to give some special thanks to some people in the community. The biggest by far is fellow speedrun YouTuber Lunatic J. We casually became mutuals around late 2021, entering early 2022, just because, we were in the same niche. We very quickly hit it off as friends, and I feel very happy saying now that he's just one of my best friends, period. There are so many other creators in the space that I could share some appreciation for, but Lunatic specifically has just been there for me so much. Even during some of my worst moments, he was always there to support me. In fact, you've seen some of his work on my channel. He helped me make thumbnails for The Lion King, Donkey Kong Country, the Super Mario World speedrunner Nobody Can Beat, the collab video that we did. I think that one's kind of underrated. You should go watch that if you didn't. It did not get that many views. He was even one of the first ones to greet me into the Midwest when I moved over here. He truly has been around so much. I seriously can't thank him enough for all the things that he's done. I also just want to thank every single person that's helped me research and script for my projects in one way or another. Many of these are not possible without the direct help of the people that I'm actually talking about in my videos. It's hard for me to just give a full list of all of them, but I promise, just go to any video that you want to watch and you'll find credits both in the description, and I usually give a pretty big mention in the video in some way. Lastly, I want to thank the Super Mario World community at large. I genuinely don't know where my life would be without this community. Getting into it was one of the most foundational things I did during my teenage years, and it provided a great escape and just something to always come back to during my very not ideal upbringing. I could keep rambling about all the people I appreciate, but I'm gonna cut myself off before this runs forever. If you stuck through this, I just want to thank you for your time, and I hope you continue to stick around. I honestly have no clue what the future holds for me. As things currently stand, I'm pretty stubborn to make these Wii videos work, so I'm going to continue experimenting with different formats to see what happens. Maybe someday I once again will be able to achieve the success that I did with speedrunning content, but even if I don't, I'm just really proud of what I was able to achieve. Building up a following of 40,000 subscribers when that was starting off as a full-time college student while being in an abusive household, and also then getting disowned and still keeping that up, is crazy. I'm really bad at acknowledging and properly giving myself the credit for all the things I've achieved, but I'm using this video to finally do that. Here's to the next chapter of my online journey. Bye bye.